my friends, I hope you had a fantastic week so far. This week, I wanted to share an exciting interview I did a couple of weeks ago with Max. Now, Max runs another video production company. We got to talk about why should you think about video, why you should consider using it to communicate to your audience about why you're special, but also why production is so lovely and so amazing and why you potentially should consider investing in it, even though we're in some interesting economic times. Hope you're well, hope your family's well, all of that. And enjoy the interview. I'll see you in a moment.
So my name is Max. I run a video agency called Bridge Media. And fundamentally, our role is to help our clients build trust extremely quickly and easily using video content. We've been doing it for 3 years. We're learning as we go, but so far we've worked with some amazing clients and slowly building our team as well, so that's good fun.
Thank you so much, Max. I really appreciate the time. And also the introduction to a new word that I'll be using later, which will be good fun from the previous conversation. The reason why I wanted to have a conversation with you, and the reason why I like talking to other video people, is number one, a validation to know what I'm talking about is actually true, right? Cool, fantastic. Yeah. But also to give a sense of change perspective, like just a contrast on just me talking, right? Because I think sometimes we can get very into echo chambers around, yes, video is a good idea. Yes, video is a good idea. But for the sake of this conversation, let's put it right back to basics, right? Why on earth should a business consider video? Like fundamentally, why would you say?
Because, I think at the end of the day, a business that communicates clearer and more to the point and touches the nerve of their clients in a good way is always going to win. And it just so happens that video is the best tool to do that with. So forget about how, video this, video that. At the end of the day, it's about communication. So it starts there. And if you're able to use that, one of my favorite illustrations that kind of describes this is when, hopefully I don't butcher a history story here, but I think it was Abraham Lincoln in the war. So he won the war, obviously, but he was able to use, what's the communication device now? That's where you send like a little ... Yes, but it's the actual tool that they use that with.
No idea. Let's carry on. Whichever that tool is.
Whatever that tool is was recently invented at his time. And the thing is, he was able to win the war because he was able to communicate quicker, faster. Now, the irony is the opposition had the same tool. He just used it a lot more in his efforts. So he was able to win basically this enormous feat and provide the way for America to move forward, right? Big epic story. But at the end of the day, he was able to communicate quicker, faster, and better. So in the world that we have today, we've got all these different communication channels. Video is the most powerful way to communicate. Quicker, faster.
Yeah, of course, I'm very biased, but I'm going to agree with that, of course. The reason why I agree with that, though, isn't just because I profit off it, right? And I think it's very fundamentally very important for one to understand or one to consider why we actually do video legitimately first. Because it's actually, for me personally, it's actually the driving factor about why I've grown my business. It's actually the reason why my business is the size it is, right? We can fluff it up and we can make it look lovely and all this, but fundamentally it's the thing that makes me money, right? That's actually why. People make purchasing decisions because of content they've consumed from me. That is why. So I can sit here and talk about tech with Max until the cows come home, I'm sure. But that's not going to be valuable to you because respectfully, you want business results, especially in the economic situation that we're in at the moment, right? Businesses from what we're talking to and the ones we're talking to at the moment are saying to me, it's not short-term results, but they need to know and understand, okay, if we spend X amount, how is it going to get me Y amount that's greater than X amount back in then what time period, right? That's what we're talking about, right? And that's why I think video marketing is in a very different league to traditional marketing. Not to replace traditional marketing, but from my perspective, it's the quickest way to build trust and rapport because you are actually seeing and hearing the person and then getting to understand their personality. But to you as the person on content, I trade my time once, right? So me and Max are having this conversation. We're going to invest this hour to have this conversation. But then this hour sits online for both of us and potentially generates us work. Asterisk on potential, right? Because it's part of a larger system. That's why it's potential. It's not one video to rule them all, right? And something that we discussed before the show was making sure that clients understand that it's a larger overarching process, more than 2012 style. Hey Max, we're going to do a promotional video and it's going to great and it's going to print us money, right? So how do you sort of, because let me ask you, do you still have clients, are you still in conversations with clients that are like, we need a promotional video out of the gate? That's what they come to you for. That's the question, the opening thing. They're like, we need a promotional video, Max.
Yeah, so a lot of the time they come to me with almost like a small idea. And I don't mean to be kind of negative to the idea itself. It's, we're trying to achieve this thing and we need a video to achieve this thing. But the actual thing that they're talking about is a much larger problem than just what they're talking about half the time. So, classic example, a client came to me saying, we need to make a website banner video because we need to get more conversions on the website. I'm like, right. So that might move the needle a little bit, but with the time and effort that is needed to actually film this website banner, we can do a lot more content and move that needle a lot further with the same amount of time. So it's kind of, they might come to me with a specific idea of what they want. But when you dig deeper to what that idea that they're thinking of is trying to solve, you realize there's a bigger problem here and there's better ways to achieve the result that you're looking for. We'll take your idea on board, but here's some other areas that I think would really maximize what you're trying to achieve there. And I think video, it's that tool to, like you say, it's ultimately a lot of businesses are just trying to build trust. That's what it all kind of boils down to. But trust is not a once kind of achieved thing. You need to build on it consistently over time. And there's multiple ways to do that. But usually it starts off with something small. We go in and understand what the actual problem is and like, right, okay, well, how about this? Or what about this? Or what if we got, your clients talking about your process, or all these different areas that we can think of that maximizes your trust building ability. And like you say, once it's done, hey presto, you've got it there to use consistently forever.
Within reason, right? Like we talked about, I'm going to use the terminology that I'm going to steal now. Traditionally, you would call it evergreen content, but I like this better. It's investment content, right? You see, that's Max's. Well, I'm taking no credit for this. This is Max's terminology that's now mine because I've stolen it, right? But it's really important to understand what that actually means, right? Because we can sit here and go, oh, look at lovely investment content, but what does that mean, Max? What does that actually mean tangibly?
That once you've paid for it, it will deliver results consistently again and again and again. So once paid for, you should be maximizing, you would look to for these like 3x, 4x, 5x times, but once you've paid for it, it should consistently be bringing back what you paid for it over and over
without
again.
you having to do anything else with it. So theoretically, it's passive, right? In some ways.
Exactly. No, it needs to be used in a system. In multiple ways, but it could be passive, but it could be active at the same time. But once it's there, hey presto, it's like a tool, isn't it? Like you can buy a tool, let it sit there and do nothing, or you put it to use in multiple ways, and then that's it. But you've bought the one tool, you've already paid for it once, and now it's doing all these other things for you. So it's kind of what you go. And
as a higher end, I guess in some ways, business conversation as well, you're investing in your brand, which in turn actually means fundamentally you're investing in extending your reputation online. That's what you're doing with video. In Crux, that's what you're doing, right? But there's been this interesting rise in the last couple of years. We can't talk about video without talking about the elephant in the room, which is TikTok, right? And the rise of the rise of short form, right? And the thing is, the reason why short form, in my opinion, is really valuable, and I'll hand back to you in a second, but for me, it's because you can take those golden moments and extract them really quickly and just have golden takeaways, golden nuggets, and it keeps you with that consistency on social. And it keeps that pressure, quote unquote, on the market, and it also allows you to test a bunch of different topics really quickly, right? So as we were alluding to a little bit before we started the show, for me, I'm always looking at, okay, how can I use the 24 hours in my day that's the finite resource that I have. Energy and time are finite resources, right? Money, actually, when you understand how it works, is infinite. Right? It actually is. And everyone kind of doesn't get that to an extent when I talk about it, because they're like, yeah, well, it is. You need to just understand where it comes from. Where's the fundamental source of it? But no matter how much money I make, I can't give myself more energy and I can't give myself more time. That's why they're finite, right? Those two things are finite. And the reason why I'm trying to leverage my time so much, and that's more valuable to me than the money, is because they're finite. As I say, they're the things that I can't add more of and get more of. But by investing in brand, you're increasing the likelihood that someone trusts you and the perception of that, which in turn means you can charge more because it's given a certain ethos, it's given a certain credibility, it's given a certain level of results, which is actually what we're talking about tangibly, is results, or perceived results is actually probably what we should say, and that comes from market conditions, that comes from market validation, which is what Max was alluding to when he talks about getting clients to talk about the client, which gets a bit clientception-y, but social proof is what we're discussing here, which is a person vouching for me or Max, yes, you should use video, because we're going to sit here and say this because we profit off it, right? So we are unconsciously going to be biased towards, yes, you should use video because I can make money from it, right? But how do you see investment content, maybe in a line with short form, but in general, really helping a business, I don't want to say get through the recession, but give them more resilience in the recession? Because I think it's a mindset thing around the recession personally, and I'm sure it's something we'll get into. But how can content help give resilience to a business, do you think, Max?
Good question. How can it give resilience to a business? I mean, so for example, networking is really pushed way for people to find new business, right? So networking, why do people network? Because they want to meet people ultimately that will either potentially give them business or know someone to give them business. Now you talk about a finite amount of time. So you've only got a finite amount of time to go to a networking meeting. You've only got a finite amount of people in that network meeting to meet, right? However, with what the ability that content gives you, a regular content, is basically, imagine if you were to stand up and give a presentation and explain what value you give, either give some advice to some of those people in the room. With short form content, you're basically able to do that every single day of the week to hundreds of people. You don't even need a massive following. You don't even need a huge 10,000 plus following. You just need a couple hundred even. But even if you're showing up to 60 people a day through your content, and that's just through one channel, so you talk maybe just LinkedIn, for example, TikTok, Instagram. If you were to utilize video, it can be placed in all those different areas. So you're talking to a couple hundred people every single day. And so you're winning their relationship over with them first, because at first they might see you as someone who's, oh, that's a bit interesting. Oh, that was a bit useful. And the next day, oh, they've given me something I didn't know there. And it might be a month or two later, but as soon as they go, you know, I was thinking about using video, or I was thinking about using this service, who's the person that comes to mind? Bam, that person. And it's demand, isn't it? It's so much easier to sell when the demand is there. Like when someone comes to you through demand.
It's the difference between serving the market demand that is there passively and creating the demand for yourself. I think that's the difference for me.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there, especially in short form context, and I'm really glad you mentioned numbers, because people say to me, well, Colin, I don't have 1,000 followers. Well, Colin, I don't have 10,000 followers, right? Now, that used to matter. Emphasis on used to, right? Because the social media platforms saw what TikTok did when it exploded and went, okay, what on earth is that algorithm doing that we're not doing, right? So traditionally, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc., they were all kind of search engine-y, but mostly around what we would call social graphs, e.g., did you follow X person, then you'll serve the content, right? And you're only going to be served content that you either follow or indirectly follow someone else who is then relevant in the content, right? This is why podcasting was so big, because you could basically take their audience to an extent, because you could invite someone on their show or on your show, vice versa, and say, as part of what we're doing now, is collaborating audiences, is saying, hey, come and listen to us talk about what we do. Fantastic. The difference now, though, is we're in a interest graph based reality on social media land, right? Now, what does that actually mean fundamentally for the consumer and or for the person consuming and or for us as video creators? What it means is, if you care about what I'm talking about, you'll be served the content, regardless of whether you follow me, regardless of whether you know who I am, regardless of etc. So now the graph you need to care about is how much content is being created for short form platform or platform in general, in comparison to how much attention or how much consumption is happening on that platform. Something that we're seeing work ridiculously well at the time of recording anyway, and I will use numbers as of here, is short form on Facebook, right? So to quote Brunton Media statistics as of this morning, we were about 16,000 or so in regards to the last 28 days, with 50% of that being post engagement. So about 8,000-ish, somewhere around there. Now that's not up there with the billions and billions and billions, sure. But if you consider that I've done that whilst also building another business that we launched 8 days ago at the time of recording that's around 7,000 now at the moment, but also that I've gone from 8,000 or so since I started pushing short form, and that's in 8 days. I'll be interested to see by the time this show comes out where those numbers are, right? Because there's going to be a period of time, because of how I do the show in respect to I'm always ahead, where there's going to be some legitimate time between this recording and it going out live, right? But this is what I mean by the attention grab, right? And as we've just described, if you can gain the attention of the ideal person, then you're more likely to build trust with them, which in turn means they're more likely to potentially purchase from you down the line. And just quickly before I ask you another question, something else that I've noticed Facebook do, which is incredibly valuable for me as a marketer, because I know where the audience is coming from then, is I get notified when someone follows the page because of short form content. As in, I get a notification saying, traditionally it was, Max has followed my account. Fantastic. Thank you, Max. Great.
But why?
I had no idea where from. I had no idea from what source. I didn't know what content he watched, etc. But now Facebook says, hey, Max consumed a short form piece of content, e.g. a reel, and then followed you. Okay, so as a marketer, I'm like, okay, short form is a thing, and it's generating me followers. Now, whether it hasn't generated me any leads yet, but we're 8 days since I took it seriously. It's not going to. It's not feasible to even suggest that. In 2-3 months, okay, different conversation. But and it leads on to the question that I was going to ask you, which is, how do we create powerful content? Because we can sit here now and we can fly the flag for saying video's a good idea, but something which I was one of the fundamental things I learned was content is king, distribution is queen, right? So how do people create actual meaningful? And as I alluded to in the conversation we had off the record, not every video is made equally, right? So how does someone, whether they're hiring someone like us in or doing it themselves on their phone, create value-based content or powerful content or content that's actually going to do something that we would class, or one would class, or the market would class as a good video? Of course, it's subjective, right? But what would you say is a good yardstick to use?
The yardstick I would use is, and maybe it's a little bit self-indulgent of me, but it's, would I want to watch this myself? Is this something that I would want to watch? Is it something that I would find interesting? Because sometimes we get in this headspace of what do other people want to watch, what do other people want to get into. But the problem I think there is you can start tailoring yourself a little bit that's not exactly who you are or more authentic to who you are. Whereas when you start off with thinking, okay, it doesn't matter knowing what your audience wants and what they want to hear, but is this something that I would enjoy learning about or figuring out? Because you're going to talk about that more passionately, you're going to talk about it with more authority, you're going to come across in a way that's just more authentic in a way. And we use this word authentic, but it's just more you. And if you're more you, people want to watch that more than this kind of thing that you're trying to be
Yeah,
half
I
the
think it's
time.
more. I think actually how I articulate it is about coming across as, and what we use is authentic self, your authentic self, but confidently. I'm going to add the word confident in there as well, because if you can own who you are, right? Like people ask me about swearing, they ask me about this and that, and as you know, like in the pre-notes for the show, it's always like if you want to swear, you can. It's not a big deal, right? Because I'm potentially going to swear. That's where that comes from. But for me, I asked myself very early on, I was like, right, do I want to not swear, right? PG, blah, not PG, blah. I was like, okay. Then I asked myself, is it authentic to me not to swear? No, it's not. So fuck off, right? Because, and the reason why is, I'm very clear, right? Marketing, the job of a marketing funnel, which is everything what we're discussing here, is everything you do in marketing is some part of some funnel. The actual job of a marketing funnel is to get people interested in who you are, work out, are you the best solution, or are you the right fit for them? And if you are, to get them to the bottom, and if they're not, to fall out the side. That's the point of a marketing funnel. And sometimes people forget about the bit falling out the side.
No, you got to have that. That's
right?
just
and
as
that's
important.
why being your authentic self matters, because I'm going to swear on set. I'm going to swear. Okay, I'm part of my vocabulary and part of how I articulate myself is through swearing. If that's a deal breaker for you, I'm so sorry. We're not going to work together because that's going to piss you off.
Yeah.
That's cool. All the best. There's plenty of other skilled people who can be a better service to you. But you and I are not going to work together if that's a deal breaker for you. However, from a terminology and a tone of voice point of view, if that connects with you and you go, bloody hell, Colin doesn't fuck around. Okay, we're in a different ball game now, right? Because we're like, yes, okay, cool. But do you find with some of your clients, either yourself or yourself personally, that you've kind of had to have that kind of conversation as well to be like, okay, do I, like, where's my, because one of the things that people say to me is, I don't want to talk about my kids, I don't want to talk about my family. And I'm like, because as a public figure, right, that's something that, you know, there's a line, right, where and what do you talk about? And what I keep reminding them is, who's in control of your mouth? Who's in control of what comes out of your mouth? Well, you, right? So if you don't want to talk about your kid's family, personal life, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Don't. It's that simple. Just don't mention it.
Yeah.
Also, you don't need to. It's not overly relevant to what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to talk about. And if you don't feel comfortable with doing it, don't.
Exactly. And it's this balance, isn't there? And so you asked me the question, how do I first
it's kind
maybe
of
help
how do you
myself?
create that tone of voice when you're starting out? How do you create the confidence to own your own tone of voice? I think is actually the crux of the question there.
I think to answer that, you need to do it enough times to find that out. You're never going to start off and be like, this is me, guys. It's going to be so flipping awkward to begin with. You'll have judgment of yourself, what you think others will judge you about what you're doing. There's going to be all this mind games going on at first. But the beauty is once you start testing and just posting and seeing what matters, as long as it comes from a place where you think this is going to either help someone and it's something that you enjoy talking about or want to share, then along the road, you will start seeing signs of, oh, that hit. And you start under the consistency, you'll start understanding what actually starts mattering to people. And I've often thought, the stuff that I've posted. So yeah, I work in video. I like producing high quality video. That's me. I want to do it. I could get my phone and film myself doing it. Sure, I might do one of them, but deep down, I want to make something that I think I enjoy creating. And so that's why I do it. And in my head, I think, well, that's maybe what will separate me from others in my space. But at the same time, as long as I'm doing it enough, there'll be one video which I make and I think it's edited really great and I've put all these effects in and it kind of does all right. And then the one that I've kind of done and I didn't put as much effort in will do amazingly well. And I'm starting to realize, well, okay, I'll put in the effort, but as long as I start dialing in what matters to me and what matters to my audience, through that consistency, you start seeing, right, what's the type of content that you enjoy doing and your audience start enjoy watching and reading. And that, I think, is once you get those two dialed in, happy days. But it's only through going through a bit of a pain process, doing it enough times to get the data, to literally get the data and see this is resonating with people. And I love that because I created this from a place of I wanted to do this. Like, this is something that I wanted to share. If it was valuable to me, I hope it's valuable to you. Bam, that's that kind of happy balance I found. So that's happened to myself, and with my clients, so you probably do this more than I do. With short form video content, we're developing a package to deliver that for our clients, but up until that point, we've tested it. So with our video assets, we'll create, larger form videos for a business, and out of that larger form videos, we'll cut out all different segments to make smaller content for them. But the beautiful thing is, when I'm, say, creating a brand video or a testimonial video for their client, we'll go through the interview process. And out of that interview, 15, maybe 20% will get used in their either brand video or testimonial video. Well, guess what? You've got 80% of this interview that is back and forth conversation talking about, why they love doing what they do, or why they were, why
Max
this
is
problem
amazing.
that they solve is
important. His team is lovely.
Yeah,
you should hire him.
All this stuff, right? We've used that 80% and created short form video content for that. And the results of using that video content, almost top funnel kind of posting on social media to drive them either to the website or drive them to follow for more, that's been fantastic. But it's only because we've been getting that kind of raw interview content and turn it into short form video content, because it was natural. It was a conversation. They had someone leading it. I could help them kind of open up a little bit more about how they feel about something. Beautiful content. So we've kind of messed around a little bit and used that content to help them. But I'm not necessarily an expert as yet to start offering a package straight away doing that. But I know from the content that we've done, back and forth, honest communication about how they feel about something has been so well served on their social media, basically.
And this is kind of the point that I was alluding to when it comes to a process, right? Like, you can have a shiny video on the website that does the job, fantastic. But how do you get people to the website? Okay, now you got to talk about something else. Okay, cool. So how can you have what's that? Where you're going to, are you doing it as a brand builder to build the page to get people to follow, right? That's a call to action at the end of a video, maybe a short form video, to do something, right? Then how are you going to keep up your consistency? Because at the end of the day, you can get the best content in the world. If you're not consistent, you're not going to be in the algorithms, which in turn means you waste of time. And one of the challenges that we help our clients face is we don't know what to post. We don't have enough content to post, right? And I'm sure Max does the same thing, but that's the power of doing what Max is referring to in regards to the interview style. Now, for the record, interviewing someone is a lot different of a skill set than actually knowing how to film the bloody thing, right? They're very different skill sets for a reason, right? Now, I speaking personally, know how to do both, okay? Now, I am unique in that perspective because I've trained both. I've actually trained how to do interviews through this podcast. That's a benefit of any business having a podcast, especially if part of your job requires talking to people or interviewing people. Have a podcast where you talk to strangers. This is the first time me and Max met, right? Fun story. If you want to know how I get podcast guests, and this might be valuable to you, and hence why I bring it up. Me and Max connected, I think I saw a video that someone else in the video world had commented on, so it was then served to me as a second connection. I went, that's incredible. I want to talk to Max. Cool. So that's his awareness piece, the client video. Cool. Then I struck up a conversation with Max and said, hey, Max, look, I run a show. We talk all things video, marketing, blah, 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 blah. Be good for your business. Get you introduced to a bunch of new people. You never know where that might lead, etc., etc., etc. That led to this conversation, right? So for me, what was the process? I didn't say, Max, can I have a call? Max, can I have a call? People have got time, but what's the value add on the call? However, if I said, Max, would you want to articulate what you do to a larger audience or a new audience, he's like, yeah. Right? Why not? Why? Because what's the downside of doing that? Worst case scenario, you get some nice comments and you get your ego lifted a bit. Right? Best case scenario, you get some work from it. That'd be good, wouldn't it? And or this works the other way around, because it's a collaboration effort where we come together and we talk about video, right? And this is what I think sometimes people get wrong in the video space, but in any space, but I can only talk about the video space because it's the one I'm in, where there's this kind of like, I can't talk to my competitors because they're going to steal what I do. It's like, yes, but there's more than enough work for all of us, number one. Number two, as we just articulated earlier about branding and perception and the point of people falling out of the funnel, Max might be perfect for Max, they might not be perfect for me. So if they fall out of my funnel, they might then see Max and end up at the top of his funnel and end up actually at the bottom of his funnel. Fantastic. They're being served, they're getting all the great content they want, but also it might happen vice versa. And that's nothing against me or Max. That's just, this is my approach, this is what I do, and that's what Max does. Fantastic. But have you found there's some, not necessarily from the video space, but have you found there's some businesses that really struggle with collaboration?
Oh, that's a good question,
Or the concept of working together?
I can only truly speak to the industry. Obviously, I've worked with my clients, but we kind of go in with how can we make you different from all your competitors? So we kind of ride that wave with them to a certain degree, like, right, how can we separate you from the girl next door?
But I would argue it's like that's the point of out-the-box video marketing, right? Because let's be honest, video is out of the box. It's not a traditional channel, right? It's not, right? Not really, right? Unless you're doing a TV ad, then it might be a bit more traditional. But it's not if you're doing it social media, because it's so new. Technically, we're still in the Wild West stages of social media, really. I know how weird that sounds for those who grew up with it like me, but we are. It's still really early.
In terms of a medium, I would say I can only really speak about the creative industry so far. And you know what? I'm like you. I go in not with a competitive mindset to who's my competitor in this space. I think we're both doing this thing and trying to make it work for ourselves. And in our space, there's so many varieties of video companies. So one guy might just solely focus on social media content. One guy might be into doing like actual commercials, like brand commercials, and he's got all the gear. And I don't think of doing anything worse personally, like the stress and effort and prospecting and proposals and all this stuff like that.
So if you're looking for one, guys, send it to me, not to Max. Is basically what you're saying.
Okay, yeah, send it to this guy. I got offered to do a TV spot, and I was like, no, not because it's something that scared me necessarily. It's just something that I don't really want to delve into as an industry. But here's the thing: recently, I had a conversation with a guy who runs networking events, and his wife works for a video company, and she is not so much a director, but kind of does the on-set design and helps basically bring the project together. She's a project manager. And I was thinking, the way I started off my business was I wasn't in this industry before. I don't have a backlog of, I've been on this set and done this, this, and this, and then eventually set up on my own. I started off basically coming back to the UK after living abroad for a while, learning how to edit and thinking, I can get paid to do this, and then figuring it out from there, right? So I never really had to begin with a huge skill set on like pre-production, organizing a shoot, making sure everything's lined up, all that stuff. So I wanted to know, right, how does that work? How does it all come together? What systems do you use to make it all organized? Because I know if I can do that for my client, it makes the whole experience better. I know how to make a great video once I've got the content and, implement it and build the strategy around it, but actually pulling it all together and making it, I'm like, whoa, it's still something I'm learning to do right now. So when I'm having this conversation with this chap, and his wife's like a production assistant, basically a manager, I'm like, can I have a chat with her? Because I'd love to know, I'd love to pick her brains and just figure out. And he was like, yeah, of course. Yeah, she'd love to. In fact, if you want, she does it freelance. So you might be able to bring her on a project. I'm like, fantastic. And my experience so far is if you've got a curiosity mindset, like I'm very curious, that's why I haven't particularly niched down significantly, because I just love working with different industries, different business owners, similar problems among them all. But by having that curiosity mindset, I don't go in thinking, right, how can I be the biggest and best in my thing and beat everybody else? I want to be better, but I love kind of understanding how other people work. And it doesn't really click with me. I've never really met someone so far that's been a bit shirty with me so far. And I'm yet to meet that person. Hopefully not. in terms of,
I think it can come in general, right? And I don't think it's ever. I think it normally. I mean, if I want to go down the psychology approach, it'll be they're taking money out of my pocket. That thing, right? I don't believe that for a second. I believe that if I didn't get a job that we both bidded for, you're the better fit for the client, and I'm happy for you, and I will always applaud you and support you in that process. Because the other day, I don't choose, you don't choose, the client chooses. Okay? Hands off. All our job is to do is saying, hey, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, whoever they are, this is how we would love to help you. This is what we would do. This is how much it costs, and this is how we would tackle it for you. This is how we would fix your problem, right? It's then up to them to decide, no, I want Max to do it, or no, I want Colin to do it, right? That's cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much, right? But what I think is really valuable that you mentioned there is just because you don't have the skill set doesn't mean you can't necessarily leverage it, right? Because, and this is the point about collaboration that I keep mentioning, because every single big Hollywood movie and big Hollywood, episodic drama and TV commercial and so on has a crew of between 10 to 100 people, if not more, right? There's a reason why that is. The reason is very simple. Not one person can focus on that one thing at the time. Okay, number one. Number two, the quality and the level of quality and the level of storytelling and the complications that they're trying to articulate are ridiculously difficult and require that number of hours, okay? Which means in turn you need lots of people working on lots of different areas so it all comes together around the same time, otherwise it's literally going to take 20 years, right? Or you want experts in that field to make sure the lighting is exactly the way you want it, to make sure the cameras are exactly the right focal length, to make sure the cameras are moving in the right way, to make sure the sound is on point. I can sit here and list another 1,000 reasons about why you need lots of people, right? But people ask me all the time, that's why I mention it, why do you need an extra pair of hands? Why do you need crew? Can you not do it? I'm like, yes, I can, but you're limiting the bandwidth that I have. If I have to look at focus, audio, and interviewing you, it's going to be a worse experience for you and me and the quality of the content if all I have to worry about is I'm having a conversation with Max and everything else is working and all is good, right? And I think that's the key when it comes to collaboration, because you can actually leverage other people's skill sets and come together as a collaborative team to be able to create a product that's better that you couldn't do on your own.
Shall I tell you a funny story about this? So recently the project that we've been talking about is in a care home, so a luxury care home, right? And deep down, I'm an editor. Like, I love it. I love creating it. I can't run a business and be an editor though. I've got to run a business and bring in now people to help me edit. So I reached out to a business locally because they were like a skincare clinic, I believe. It looked like a fantastic brand. The guy was already on social media, kind of doing his own thing. I was thinking, you know what, some next level video content would really improve this guy's brand. So I got in touch with him and he said, I'm sorry, I've already got a videographer. I was like, fantastic. I hope the work turns out right. If anything, changes down the line, I'm here. Part of me was thinking, I'm interested to see how this video turns out, like what his content looks like. I'm just, curious. And when it was released, it was bang on content. I was like, man, he's good. So I got in touch with the editor. I was like, listen, I love your style. You really delve into the person and trying to uncover their story. You get the emotional balance in that video so spot on. I'd love to have a chat with you because I'd love to work with you. So we met up, had got on straight away, awesome guy. And so when we did this luxury care home, we did a brand video, we filmed it, did the whole thing. I edited that, showed it to the client, and he was like, yeah, it's good. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, I'm really going to like it. Yeah. So showed it to the rest of the team. They liked it. Released it. It's brought some results for them. They've got new people moving in. Fantastic, happy days. We then create a recruitment piece, and I couldn't handle the edit. I was too busy. So I said to my editor, I was like, hey, do you want to take on like before, middle, and after? And I'll just kind of make sure everything's wrapped up. And if you can look after that, happy days, let us know. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we did it before, middle, and after. Showed it to the client. Client was like, that is absolutely brilliant. He was like, I'm so, like, you've just captured the brand and the people so well in that recruitment video. I was like, he didn't react to my thing, but reacted to his thing like that. And I wasn't annoyed. I was actually really happy because I was like, flipping heck, I've got someone now who can do a better job.
Yeah.
And what
And,
is a better job?
and sorry to
What is
cut you
it?
off, but I think it's really important to interject here. That's the point of hiring talent, right?
Big
Either
time.
either
Yeah.
recording yourself in a world where you can't do it. I'll give you an example. At the time recording, I'm about to give a presentation. It's only 10 minutes, but it's still good content for a bunch. It's a Chamber of Commerce event. Every single business in the room will be a potential client. So yes, of course, I'm going to film that so I can distribute it online. Right? Great, fantastic. That's what I'm doing tomorrow, right? The reason why I hire talent to do that is because I could set up this camera. It's literally downstairs, right? I could put this at the back of the room, press go, and the quality of the content's going to be meh, right? What we can do and what we're doing tomorrow is this camera's going to be in one side of the room. The operator's going to have two cameras on the opposite side of the room, and I'm going to have a fun play when it comes to cross-cutting, right? And actually creating content from it. And the reason why I mention it here is because exactly what you're talking about is saying, I'm very good at this specific thing, right? I'm strategically very good. Fantastic. Okay, but I've just found someone who's better at editing than me, right? In this context. That doesn't mean he's a better editor, because everything's subjective.
No,
it's saying,
yeah.
in this scenario, they are better. Fantastic. In the
Mm-hmm.
same way, if I bring a camera operator in, they might be better at making it like, I've got some camera operators who are like, they're going to make this interview look, whoa, beautiful. If I asked them to sit down and interview the person, they would crumble. But that's why I'm here, right? So it's again about, I think, allocating, and of course this all has costs and all, etc., budget and blah, 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 attached to it, unfortunately, because everyone has to get paid, right? Because unfortunately we're all professional, we're all here to make money. However, the difference in quality and product is what the price is actually paying for, right? And that's the important point I wanted to make there. But what was the conclusion, if there was a conclusion to your story?
Like, basically, you've summed it up. In context, it doesn't, as long as at the end of the day the client goes, yes, this is what we need. It doesn't matter if I make it, doesn't matter whoever makes it, as long as it does what they're wanting it to do for their company, everybody's a winner. As soon as you start meddling around with, oh yeah, but it's not my work, and oh, my pride gets involved in a little bit of this, that, and the other, you're not a business owner anymore. I'm sorry. You've lost that kind of entrepreneurial mindset of trying to build a business, because you're an artist. And here's the thing, you can be both. Like, I love creating, but I want to run a business, and I want to run something that, looks after my life and the ones around me, and look after other people outside of that as well. That's the goal that I want. That outweighs for me the desire to be an absolute artist. Now, it's okay if it's the other lever. Like, that is fine. Some people are absolute artists, just do astronomically well and get others to help them with the business side of things, whatever. But when I realized that the client at the end of the day valued that strongly, and it's now out there delivering results for them, bringing the right type of people to work for their company, and I have an editor on board who we both get on with really well, fantastic. Like, I'm like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. When you do a creative business, it's like you're running all these spinning plates, and then this kind of thing realizes, he's like, oh, it's not all about me anymore. It's not all about me. And the client wins fundamentally. Like, they have to get something at the end of the day that they're like, when they first watch a video, it can be quite moving for them, because you're kind of showing up a mirror and they're seeing all the best features of their business because they're in it. They're seeing all the grubby stuff around it, and they're just like, it's that organized chaos half the time, isn't it? When you get a video that touches on the emotional side of the business and the logical side and puts it all together with music and all this stuff, it's like showing, oh, this is what you actually look like. And it hits. And now they're proud to show that to the people around them. That moment to me is that's so important. And that outweighs the fact that if I made it or not half the time. Now I'm starting to realize.
I think it's a really important point you made, because something that I, about 2 years ago now, really it was really a big growth point from me personally, as in personal development wise, was like, I have to let go of this control. that I've filmed everything and I've edited everything and I've done this and I've done that. Because as we alluded to earlier about energy and time being finite, that infinitely stops me from being able to actually take on more work and or create more demand for myself, right? Whichever reality you're in, right? Either you've got so much demand that you can't serve it, and there's two ways to cull that. Either scale your team or up your price. Because by upping your price, you're going to passively cull the bottom percentage. That's just the reality, right? Now, what happens there is, though, if you don't have in an ideal world, you do both at the same time, right? Because then you're in a position where you can give the control to someone you trust. And I'm not saying give it to everyone. Vet your people, check their work, get them to do something that's low risk for you first, would be my recommendation. BTS video for you, etc. They're nice to have, don't get me wrong, marketing for you. But if it goes wrong, it's not cost you a client job. If it goes wrong, the client is going to be pissed off at you because it's not doing it. They're not touching the client job. They're just doing it for you. So, oh no, we didn't get a marketing piece from that. Okay, the world will continue to spin somehow, I'm sure, right? But it gives you a good way to validate how good is this person and what actually is their skill set, and actually what do they enjoy, right? Actually is what we're talking about here, really. But I'm aware of time, so thank you so much for it. But firstly, if people really enjoyed this conversation, where can people connect with you? Where can they see these shiny videos we've been referring to, and all of that? Where's best to reach? Where's best to reach out to Max if they want to talk to Max?
LinkedIn fundamentally. So Max Lord at LinkedIn. And if you wanted to get in touch on a business level, then go to our website at bridgedmedia.co.uk.
It's in the description to make your life convenient. And final piece of advice for those starting out with video, starting out with marketing in this economic, interesting situation that we find ourselves in. What would you say?
It sounds so simple, but just starting and learning as you go, you'll be amazed at how far it'll take you. Basically, if you can consistently keep up in a month's time with just getting your own video content out there and seeing what works, because at the end of the day, you can just test. And then as soon as you've got enough tests, you can think that's the stuff that my audience connects with. Start there. And then see where you go. Basically, we're all testing at the end of the day. So all you got to do is start. But you've got the highest leveraging tool in the world, basically, I think, is video. So yeah, get on with it.
Thank you so much for coming back, ladies and gents. I hope you took value from mine and Max's conversation. I thought it was incredibly fun and incredibly good. So thank you so much for coming back. I'll be back next week to share a brand new interview with you. And why not subscribe if you don't want to miss that? That'd be good fun and really, really exciting. But thank you ever so much for the growth of my channel lately. If you're new, hello, welcome, subscribe, like, comment, all those good YouTube things. And I'll see you very, very soon.